And the degree to which we identify with those beliefs and hold on to them as me is the degree to which we will suffer, is also the degree to which we won't have free will to choose, and the degree to which we will find it difficult to let go and surrender and truly trust life.
Mhm.
And part of why it's so difficult to let go is because we've gotten so attached and identified with those belief systems as this is who I am.
Welcome, Kute Blackson. I am so honored to have you on the podcast today, and I can't wait to get into what we're going to talk about today. So thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
Yeah, so one thing I want to get into, there was something that you wrote in your book, The Magic of Surrender, and it really struck me because it just makes so much sense when you compared life to this, when you talk about it being like an ocean and that we can't control the waves. We tend to just, the only thing we do is how we react to them. But yet so many of us are trying to control the ocean and control that external world. And that's why we're struggling through life.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense when you talk about we can't control the ocean, of course, but yet we get kind of trapped in this cycle of trying to control our external world. So if we get the job, we make a certain amount of money, then we'll finally feel this
Mhm.
inner peace, and it's basically futile in
Mm.
doing that. Can you talk about why so many of us are challenged with looking outside ourselves rather than looking within?
Mm. Um, yeah, I think when we develop a conditional relationship to life,
Hmm.
and we have this misconception that if I can control everything outside of myself, control this, control this, control this, control this, control you, control my spouse, control my pet, control my child, control the weather, uh, then I will be okay. Then, you know, control is the master addiction, and it's
Hmm.
well intended.
Hmm.
And through control, we are trying to keep ourselves safe ultimately. Because if we can be real, likely for most of us, there are things that happened when we were growing up. There were experiences that we went through when we were children with our parents, with our caregivers, with our loved ones. And some of those experiences were very painful. Some of those experiences were very painful and we felt out of control. Some of those experiences were very painful and we felt helpless. We are like these pure beings of light that we incarnate into this human experience, and we're just in touch with the essence and we're so sensitive and so pure and so aligned and so alive. But we incarnate, we're born, we meet our parents, and they're just doing the best that they know how to do based on their childhood and their pain and their upbringing and their parents and things that needs that they didn't get met. And so maybe they were fighting all the time. Maybe there was alcoholism. Maybe we were beaten. Maybe there was some abuse. Maybe they were good people, but they didn't know how to meet our emotional needs in some way. And that was deeply painful. And
Hmm.
so, um, because we perhaps felt helpless or out of control, especially for a young being, our nervous system is so fragile, and it's almost as though we learn all sorts of strategies to shut down, disconnect, and not feel. And then we develop all sorts of defense mechanisms around us to protect us from feeling the pain, protect us from getting hurt. And then it's the sense of like, well, I will live in such a way that that will never happen again. And so the mechanism of control becomes a way to protect us from feeling that way again. And so it's well intended, but then we end up spending so much of our time, our energy, and our life trying to make sure that life fits a certain pattern and way of being so that we don't feel helpless again. So now our heart is closed and we shut down. And if I can just keep my heart closed, shut down, then I will never have to feel disappointed again, right? Or if I can be who I think you want me to be. As children, we became who we thought we needed to be to get love, validation, approval, which is another form of control. Because if I can contort myself to become a nice girl, a nice guy, a good boy, the responsible one, get all A's, then I can control in some way and get love and validation and approval. And so now we go out into the world and we are so um, we lose touch with ourselves and we become a version of ourselves that we thought we needed to be in order to get love, validation, approval, which is to being rejected. And so I think when we live so much of our lives from this place, we are not free. We are
Mhm.
not free. And so then we sort of orchestrate our lives, and life needs to be exactly in a certain way for us to feel okay and free. And
Mhm.
so there's no freedom in that because there's so much in our life that we do not have control over. We don't control the weather, we don't control the president, we don't control almost anything, really, until we realize that we are slaves to
Mhm.
external factors and external environments and circumstances and situations. But I think true freedom and true power is when you take your power back and you realize and you make a decision to say, wait a second, I will no longer allow external situations and environments to determine my inner freedom.
Mhm.
And that's a bold decision, but I think
Mhm.
that's the beginning of freedom. Yeah, and that's the beginning of taking responsibility. You can't control events that happen to you. You can't control things that happen to you. You can't necessarily control many things that will happen to you. But what we do have the power to control is the way we choose to interpret it, is the meanings that we choose to make up about experiences. And then we can step back and realize, wait a second, events have no meaning
Mhm.
because one person can see an event a certain way, another person sees the same event a completely different way. So events in and of themselves have no meaning. They're kind of meaningless other than the
Mhm.
meaning that we choose to give them. And that is the power that we have. And that
Mhm.
is the freedom that we have, the freedom to make things mean whatever we choose to. When we give that away, we're lost. And
Mhm.
so then we can learn how to be more free in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, so profound. And when we're in that place and we have these belief systems that if we control the world and then we'll feel safe, and a lot of that is fear
Yeah.
driven, do
Yeah.
we have to get to a place of so much pain where then we make the transition, or can we be proactive about that before we go through so much
Yeah.
suffering to actually get to the
I
place where we transition?
think we ideally we can be,
Hmm.
but often we hold on to those beliefs.
Hmm.
I'm unworthy, I'm not enough, all these things, the way men are this way, women are this way, life is this way. We hold on to those beliefs so tightly because those beliefs have gotten reinforced and those beliefs become who we think we are. So those beliefs effectively become our sense of identity. Those beliefs becomes who we think we are, and effectively that is ego.
Hmm.
Ego is the mistaken identification with ourselves as body, mind, form, name, ideas, belief structures, memories from the past, and the degree to which we identify with those beliefs and hold on to them as me is the degree to which we will suffer, is also the degree to which we won't have free will to choose, and the degree to which we will find it difficult to let go and surrender and truly trust life.
Hmm.
And part of why it's so difficult to let go is because we've gotten so attached and identified with those belief systems as this is who I am. I am shy. I am not enough. I am this way. It's me. And so to let that go, not so easy. The ego, the mistaken sense of what we believe ourselves to be, doesn't want to change because change for the ego feels like a death because we're so attached and identified. It's not a death, it's a death of the illusion of what we believe ourselves to be, but it's not truly a death, right? But it feels like a death because if I really believe myself to be this set of beliefs, then if I let go of those beliefs, then who am I? Oh, shoot, I'm going to die. And so this is why we tend to resist change and resist questioning ourselves. And so, does it do bad things, difficult things, hard things need to happen? No, if we're willing to surrender and let go proactively and question ourselves in a sort of intentional evolutionary way. But
Hmm.
because of the nature of the ego, we don't often throw ourselves out of the plane or proactively go to the dentist, or
Yeah.
usually we got to have that toothache to go to the dentist.
Mhm.
Usually we have to have some shock, crisis, or pain that forces us to let go for a moment of our own sense of identification, which is painful, but it forces us to. So
Mhm.
if we're willing to intentionally, consciously evolve, we don't have to. But if we don't, which is where most of us are, we're holding on and we're conditioned by parents, society, religion, life, the world around us. Uh, Sadly, often the path of pain is the only way to
Mhm.
crack us open to
Mhm.
like the universe. Like the universe might first send us like a little gentle note like, hey, this is not working, and
Yeah.
then sends us a messenger input, this is not working, then sends us a Mack truck, and then
Mhm.
sends us a freaking tsunami and a disaster, and it's like, where are you willing to let go and surrender? And so I
Mhm.
think it really depends. We do not have to go through suffering, but often suffering is the only way that we end up growing, that loosens and forces us to loosen the ego's grip, where we don't have a choice anymore. In that disease or illness, we don't have a choice anymore.
Mhm.
In the midst of COVID, we don't have a choice anymore. But it doesn't have to be that way if we're intentional, if we're
Mhm.
willing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we go dive into that a little bit further? Because a lot of the times those really big challenges that that tsunami, that Mack truck, and we're going through it and then we're thick of it, we can very much feel like we're in a victim mode, like life is
Yes.
just happening to me. How do we
Yes.
start to make that transition of like, okay, this is something I can grow from. This is something that was divinely placed in my life to
Yeah. I
allow that
think
for expansion.
you first have to understand the nature of life
Hmm.
and the nature of who you are.
Hmm.
When you really realize that you are a soul
Hmm.
and you understand that what is the purpose of life, when you think you're just this ego, it's mind and body, and that's it. You're born,
Hmm.
then you die, and that's all there is to it. In the meanwhile, go on vacations, get a nice car, have a nice house, and watch some TV, and that's life, right? Yeah. Then when bad things happen, we look at it one dimensionally as good and bad in the realm of duality, and then we judge. Because when we're locked in our perspective of ego, we can't see the bigger picture of anything. We can't see why things are happening. We can't see what this is serving in our lives in this moment. We're not able to see it. It's just like terrible that we broke up with that person. It's terrible that that person left. It's terrible that we got fired. It's terrible. And then from that place, of course, we end up feeling like a victim and we feel powerless. But I
Hmm.
believe ultimately there are no victims in life. Yes, things happen, we might be victimized, but that doesn't mean you are a victim.
Hmm.
Terrible things happen, things are unfair, but whether you choose to see yourself as a victim is a certain choice and perspective, right? One will empower you and one won't. So I think that when you understand that you are a soul, and as a soul, we incarnate into this human experience in order to learn, in order to grow, in order to evolve. And life is kind of a university for our soul's evolution.
Hmm.
Life is a school. Life is a school to help you grow and evolve. Everyone is your teacher. Everything is your curriculum. So if life is a school and you're here to learn, to grow and evolve and become more of who you really are, then school is always in session.
Hmm.
And inherent in every experience and situation is the invitation, and is giving you the invitation to learn, to grow, and evolve. And so if you go through an experience and you see like, oh my God, why is this happening? It's good, it's bad, it's terrible, it's the worst. God doesn't love me, life doesn't love me, I'm so unlucky. That's one thing. You will miss the growth opportunity and the evolutionary opportunity for why you are going through that experience. If you see life as a school and this is a classroom, then even the worst experience, the worst relationship, the worst breakup, rather than being like, well, why is this happening to me from a victim standpoint? You can ask from a soul standpoint, why is this happening to me? Here's some questions. Why is this happening to me? Why did my soul attract this experience? What is my soul seeking to learn? What lessons am I resisting learning that I keep going through this experience, right? What is it that I'm not wanting to see? Because I think when we learn the lessons where we are, with who we're with, this unlocks the key to the next level of our life. Life is an evolutionary process. So if you are going through a very difficult, challenging, hard, difficult, dark night of the soul, a moment, where it's just horrible. It's horrible for your personality,
Mhm.
but for your soul is ecstatic because you would not be going through that lesson if you were not ready to evolve through it. And
Mhm.
I would say the reason you are going through that situation, experience, and lesson, as difficult as it is because you are actually ready to finally learn the lesson and master that dimension, master that lesson so that you can experience something else. The situation is not sent to break you. The situation is sent to break you loose and free you from that so that in that situation you can learn the lesson and demonstrate and embody your knowing, your learning, your understanding, to embody it so that you can live it and experience something different. You can't graduate to university unless till you graduate high school. And so on one level is difficult. On another level, I would say congratulations. It may not feel that way, but congratulations because the fact that you're going through this is a sign that you're ready to learn, you're ready to grow. And many times, right before a breakthrough to your next level, you will face challenges and difficulties and hardships. Right before the breakthrough to the next level, you will sometimes have to come face to face with the very roadblocks and difficulties that you've been grappling with. Pain, hurt, addiction, your ex shows up, whatever it is, to give you the opportunity to demonstrate your commitment to your next level and to give you the opportunity to integrate, live, and embody everything you've learned up until that phase of your life. And
Mhm.
so people often give up in those moments. But that moment is not sent to break you, it's sent to break you open to the next level. And so I would say just know that if you're going through a challenging moment, you're probably way closer to the breakthrough than you know. And you wouldn't
Mhm.
be going through it if your soul wasn't ready. So do the inner healing and unlock the lesson so that you can grow.
Yeah, so powerful and so reassuring if you're really like stuck in this place where you feel like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get out of it? But to realize like those biggest challenges are then
Yes.
right.
The biggest, if you look at life, right? If you go to the gym, don't know
Hmm.
if anyone listening goes to the gym, but who here you go to the gym and your greatest workout has been when you sat on the couch at the gym for an hour and scrolled through social media. And then you left. That was a great workout. No. Or you did a couple of little you found the lightest dumbbells you could find, 5 pound dumbbells, and you did like 3 sets of those. The greatest moments when I've been to the gym is when the trainer or the class just kicked my ass. And I was like,
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. And I'm shaking and I'm quivering and my muscles are like, oh my God. That's when we build the strength. So just know that when you're going through it, you are in the gymnasium and life is forcing you to develop and build the strength. That's when you develop the power. That's when you develop the energy. That's when you grow. So
Hmm.
if you can go through those difficult times and you can resist.
Hmm.
Ah, why is this happening to me? Da, 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 da. No, 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 no. Suffering comes when you are in resistance.
Hmm.
Sounds something like the experience that I'm having is not the experience that I should be having.
Hmm.
I should be having some other experience than the experience I'm having right now. Instant suffering. In any moment of suffering, I shouldn't be in traffic. They shouldn't be this way. I shouldn't be going through this. But you are. So you can either resist your way through it, which only creates more suffering, or you can surrender and open to the lesson. And the surrender is not like, oh, I'm just going to stay in this abusive relationship and just I'm stuck. No, the surrender is to say, I accept that this is my experience right now And the surrender is, let me surrender to learning a lesson in this experience right now. So if you can go through the experience and surrender, this is what will unlock the internal resources, and we could say grace, to help you move through the situation.
Yeah, beautiful. And then as far as that, as far as like accepting the experience, how do we get to that point where we can make that transition of we have these expectations, this is what things should look like, and you want
Yeah.
someone to be the person for you in relationships, or this job should be the job that was it. How do
Yeah,
we get to
yeah,
the
yeah.
point where we can let go of some of those that maybe we're
I
holding?
would say sometimes through pain.
Yeah.
It's like you bang your head on the wall long enough.
Mhm.
It's like this wall shouldn't be here. Keep banging.
Yeah.
Like keep banging. Sometimes I wish people more suffering, because it's
Hmm.
only through that they realize, wait a second, no matter how many times I bang my head on the wall, it's not going away.
Hmm.
It might end up going away 20 years later, but you'll be brain damaged and dead,
Hmm.
basically, right? It's not worth it. And so I think sometimes through pain, and so through the pain, eventually you start realizing, wait, is this what I want? Is this the experience I want? Do I want to suffer more? When you make that choice to say, you know what, I no longer want to suffer, then you're forced to go into acceptance.
Hmm.
Acceptance is the stage where you come to the honest reflection of the reality that is. This is what it is. Until you accept what is, you can never change. Until you accept what is, nothing will be different. Until you accept what is and what isn't, you will stay stuck. And so you have to ask yourself, how stuck do I need to be, and how much pain do I need to experience until I just come into acceptance? So
Hmm.
that's what we have to ask ourselves. Many times, we end up negotiating with ourselves. That prevents us. So we negotiate, well, maybe this person is not so bad, even though they're like doing some drugs on the weekend, but I don't really like that. And maybe this relationship could work because they got potential to heal. And if they just went to therapy and did some healing and started exercising and they were nice and they talked to me differently, well, they would be a different person, right? But we start negotiating, and that negotiation often keeps us stuck. So we have to, there comes a moment where we stop negotiating. This is what it is.
Hmm.
And we have to be more committed to our freedom than what we want.
Hmm.
And when we're more committed to being free than wanting what we want, that is the beginning also of acceptance. So we come into, this is what it is. This is like in relationship, this is what this person is. Not being in love with your someone's potential. One of the
Hmm.
greatest things that keeps us stuck in relationships tends to be, especially for women, it's a generalization, but we all can do it. I have done it as a man. But women tend to have the gift of seeing the potential. It's a beautiful quality in a guy, in a person. It's like, but I see what he can be, and I see it's great to see a potential in a man if he's willing to acknowledge that, and he's willing to do the mental, emotional, physical, psychological, therapeutic work to clear his internal block so that he can heal, so that he's able to step into that potential. But if he's not actually willing to do the work to fulfill the potential that you're seeing, there's no hope.
Hmm.
And so we have to see what is.
Hmm.
This is what is. This is
Hmm.
what isn't. When you can do that, that is the beginning of acceptance. But just because you accept something does not mean you are in surrender.
Hmm.
There's the thing that people mistake. We often think that, oh, I'm acceptance. I'm in acceptance, but acceptance is not surrender. We often miss the phase in the middle, which is why we actually don't get to true surrender. The phase in the middle is grieving. We
Hmm.
often don't allow ourselves to truly grieve, because when you accept something, it is the beginning of the end. It is the
Hmm.
beginning of what you thought was. When you accept that this person will never change, oof, it's sad. When
Hmm.
you really accept, and sometimes we don't want to truly accept who someone is, as an example, because we know that if I really accept them, it doesn't work for me. And that
Hmm.
will mean the relationship is over. So the ego resists. We resist and don't accept, because if I don't accept and I try to control them or I try to change them, then I don't actually have to let go. I'm in the pursuit of control. But when I truly accept this is what they are, it forces me to face the reality. And it
Mhm.
forces me to maybe face the reality that this relationship, based on the way it is, will never work.
Mhm.
And so it's sobering. When we can come into that sobering acceptance, it forces us into grieving.
Mhm.
Most people don't move into true surrender because they might be in acceptance, but they don't allow themselves to grieve. And grieving is where you have accepted what is and you allow yourselves to feel the sadness, the pain, the letting go of the reality, the life that you thought you were living, who you thought you should be, a phase of your life. Wow, I'm not 20 years old anymore. I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm 50, I'm moving into a different phase of my life. It's like letting go of a certain phase, letting go of your children when they turn 18 and they're about to leave home. It's like, okay, it's an acceptance and a grieving so you can surrender, right? And so grieving is I would say, an overlooked but necessary phase to move you into the phase of
Mhm.
true surrender. We have to be willing to grieve who we were, the part of ourselves that we're letting go of, the identity that we're releasing, the version of ourselves that we were. The next level of your life requires the next level of you. And the
Mhm.
next level of you requires that you let go of who you've been. You
Yeah.
cannot manifest the new being the old. And often holding on to what was out of safety and familiarity and comfort is what keeps us blocked. And
Mhm.
so surrender, we often think that surrender is weak, surrender is passive, surrender is giving up, surrender is, I won't manifest my goals, dreams, and desires. But I'm actually saying no, but by surrendering, okay, you might need to let go of that relationship. But I really wanted it to be, I really wanted it to work. I invested so much time, so much energy, the best years of my life. Yeah, but trying to make something be something that is not will never
Mhm.
make you happy. Trying to
Yeah.
make an orange into an apple will not make it so. Trying to make a circle into a square
Mhm.
doesn't make it so. It just creates so much suffering. And so
Yeah.
often we are in pain because we're trying to make things be something that they're not. And so when you truly surrender, it's your willingness to trust life. It's your willingness to honor yourself and say, you know what, I deserve more. It's the willingness to let go of how you think you should be, how you think life should be, to take the limitations of life and let go of control so that you can allow what is truly yours, allow what is truly authentic, allow what is your deepest expression and impulse to emerge. And
Mhm.
that's when I would say the magic happens. So I believe that the universe is always working for your highest good.
Mhm.
You might not be able to see it right now. And so that's where we hold on to what we think we want. It's like we're trying to hold on to peanuts.
Mhm.
Universe is trying to give you a peanut factory,
Mhm.
and it's like, no, no, no. I really want this person to be the one. I'm going to make this person the one. They're clearly telling you they're not the one. And we wonder why we suffer. But when you can say, you know what? I'm going to let go. It's painful. Yes,
Mhm.
I need to grieve, but that will release the past to open you up to the new and open you to being available to whoever or whatever is the one for you. I
Mhm.
remember before I met my wife, who's just the gift of my life today. We have a beautiful 21-month-old son. It's just
Oh,
couldn't even imagine.
yeah.
I couldn't imagine
Mhm.
the level of love and just grace in my life. I remember before her, there was a woman I was dating, and I thought she was the one.
Mhm.
And Kelly, I was like, she's the one. It was like, whatever it takes, I'm gonna.
Mhm.
And after a few months, it became very evident because she of her own stuff,
Mhm.
she wasn't. And I had to let go, and it just humbled me
Mhm.
when what you think isn't. What you're so sure about is actually not. And then sometimes what you're so not sure about turns out to be. And
Mhm.
and and then you just throw your arms up to life and say, you know what? I don't know. I don't know. Something knows. There's an intelligence, but I don't know. Then I'm willing to be open and
Mhm.
I'm willing to allow life to show me. I'm willing to allow life to reveal itself to me. And this is when I would say the magic happens.
Beautiful. It so hits home for me, and so much of what you're saying. And so many people who listen to this have sacrificed themselves to make the external world work, and then have become
Yes.
very disconnected from themselves in the process. And so, one of the hardest questions for so many people is like, "What do you want?" And they can't even answer it because they're so disconnected because they've lived their life by doing what
Yeah.
others want. How
Yeah.
important is it to know yourself in the process
Yeah.
so
You
that
have to, because if you don't know yourself, then what do
Mhm.
you know? Like
Yeah,
even when we set our goals, so the old paradigm is an ego-driven life where
yeah,
most of us kind of start out, right?
Mhm.
It's not a judgment, it's just a level of development. And
Mhm.
so in the ego-driven life, we're trained to ask the question, what do I want?
Mhm.
You got to know what you want. Know
Mhm.
what you want. Set your goal. Know what you want. And but we're doing it from an ego place.
Mhm.
So if you don't know who, so then maybe you achieve the goal. You become a doctor. You get the house. You get the marriage. You get the two kids. You get all of these accolades, and then you're sitting there. And you go, is this it?
Mhm.
You achieve what you thought you wanted
Yep,
based on who you thought you were, only to
exactly.
realize that what you thought you wanted was not what you really wanted. It was just what you thought you wanted. Right? And so many times then we're setting goals based on a goals that are a reaction to maybe
Mhm.
unmet needs from childhood. Dad
Mhm.
wasn't around, mom wasn't around, the conditioning we talked about, there was pain, I didn't feel enough. So if I can just achieve this goal, if I can just be famous, if I can just fill in the blank, then I'll be enough. And nothing outside of you will really fulfill you
Mhm.
unless you are fulfilled inside. And
Yeah.
so, without knowing who you truly are, you end up living life that is a lie.
Mhm.
And most of us don't realize that who we've become, I should say, conditioned to become, is not who we really are.
Mhm.
It's just a version of ourselves that we end up becoming.
Mhm.
It's not the authentic version of ourselves. And so, based on that, we've developed roles and masks and personas. We become the shy person. We become the nice guy. We become the good boy. We become the over responsible one, the independent person. And we just say, no, this is just who I am. But I would invite each person to have some self awareness and some self inquiry and ask, is who I am who I really am?
Mhm.
Or is it just who I've been conditioned to be?
Mhm. So
Because
powerful.
most of us, we're living a version of ourselves that
Mhm.
seems real. And based on that, we are conditioned, but based on that, we have no free will. We
Mhm.
think we're choosing, but we're not. We're living inside of a prison of a persona. We're living inside of a script. We're living inside of an identity. We're living inside of a limitation.
Mhm.
No freedom.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And, I noticed in my own journey as I've really lived more of an authentic life and I've really known myself, one thing I experienced is my outside world started to unravel. So relationships that were significant fell apart. There were so many things that just unraveled and could easily take that as evidence that you're on the wrong path. But can
Yeah.
you speak to that as like when our external world is unraveling and we feel in our
Mhm.
hearts we're on the right path, how do we not use that as evidence that we're on the wrong path?
Yeah. Um, your external world will unravel.
Mhm.
Here's the thing. When you set a goal and an intention
Mhm.
and you say, I want to achieve this, goals are evolutionary because they will take you on a journey. And those goals are outside of your current self and identity.
Mhm.
So when you set a goal, oh, I want to make $1 million. I want to get married. I want to achieve this thing. I want to impact the world. Then the current level or structure of your life is probably too small
Mhm.
for what your soul is seeking to become. It's too small for what your soul is seeking to become. And so then, because you've set that intention, your life as you know it and the way you've constructed it has to start falling apart. So your intention to achieve and create is being fulfilled because it can't be fulfilled in the current structure of your life.
Mhm.
You can't put like forget this quote, new wine into old wineskins or something like that, right? There's a
Mhm.
quote like that from the Bible, which I'm completely butchering
Mhm.
it. But and so you can't manifest the new being the old
Mhm.
version of yourself. You have to become you. And so that means the caterpillar goes into the cocoon,
Mhm.
can't get too comfortable in the cocoon because eventually, in order to become the butterfly, it has to shed the cocoon. But most
Mhm.
of us, we're living either as the caterpillar or we're just stuck cozied up in the cocoon. So when
Mhm.
your life starts falling apart, it's a sign that you've outgrown your life as you know it. It's a
Mhm.
sign that you've become beyond and bigger than your life as you know it. It's a
Mhm.
sign. And
Yeah.
so don't lose hope.
Mhm.
The challenge is what we do is we hold on to what we know. We hold on to the relationship that doesn't work. We hold on to the thing that doesn't work, thinking like, and that just keeps us stuck. So when
Mhm.
stuff starts falling apart that you know is not aligned,
Mhm.
let go.
Yeah.
When the world starts falling apart, don't try to hold it together. Let go. If you
Mhm.
try to keep it together, you'll slow yourself down and your
Mhm.
metamorphosis. If the caterpillar in the cocoon just held on to the shell, it would never become the butterfly
Mhm.
until it said, "Okay, let me let this go." And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I think it's scary. So we have to breathe and trust and breathe and trust
Mhm.
and allow and just put one step in front of the next step. The thing that sometimes happens is in when things start falling apart, we judge ourselves and we beat ourselves up. And what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. It's
Mhm.
you set an intention, and now life is clearing away the
Mhm.
things that are no longer aligned with that intention.
Mhm.
This is growth. So if you understand that, that's when you start letting go. And we have to greet the letting go with gratitude so that
Mhm.
you can bless who you were and bless the version of yourself that you were so that you can step into the version of yourself that your soul is seeking to be. And
Yeah.
so, yes, it can be a bit scary. We can
Mhm.
breathe, we can meditate, we can nurture ourselves, we can surround ourselves with good family and those we love, and those that will encourage us to, hey, keep going, don't give up.
Mhm.
I think it's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, at that human level, it's like having our nose up against a painting. It's hard to see what's actually going on. But at the soul level, if we can remove ourselves, you can see the whole picture of why
Yeah.
everything is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
look back now, I'm
yeah,
like, oh, that's why I had to break up with that woman. It's like, wow.
exactly.
It,
Yeah.
if you look at some of the things you were so sure you wanted,
Hmm.
everyone just does this exercise.
Yeah.
Look back in your life at some of the things that you were absolutely sure
Mhm.
that you wanted. You just that relationship, that like you couldn't imagine not being with that person. Oh my God, this is my life. And then
Mhm.
now, maybe years later, you think, what was I thinking? It's like,
Mhm.
thank God that didn't work
Yeah.
out. Like, oh my God. Now I'm looking back and going, wow, thank God that relationship and that relationship and that relationship didn't work out. It's the
Exactly.
biggest blessing imaginable,
Absolutely.
the
Yeah,
biggest
100%.
blessing. And it's just
It
grace,
totally.
just
Mhm.
grace, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to go into something, just talking about boundaries, because this is something that can be really challenging. But, relationships are the best mirror for seeing what's going on in
Sure.
their internal worlds. How do we know at one point do we allow relationships to allow us to grow and evolve? And at what point do we set boundaries? So, how do we know when to kind of surrender to that relationship and let it be a guide for us to internally evolve? Or when do we start to set those boundaries in allowing us to maintain our inner peace?
You mean set the boundaries and like leave the relationship or
Um, not allow so much access to ourselves.
just in general, not just
Yeah.
romantic relationships, like
No, just any relationship.
any
Yeah,
relationship.
any
Look,
relationship.
I would just say, look, relationship as a whole
Mhm.
are a mirror.
Mhm.
And when you understand the dynamic of relationships, people you attract to in your life, you attracted them because you're a similar level of consciousness, similar vibration, and there's lessons that you and that person have to learn.
Mhm.
And they are mirroring to you parts of yourself that you most need to heal, integrate, make peace with, and learn.
Mhm.
And so essentially, there is no relationship out there. The relationship out there is a projection of your own self. You are in relationship with yourself. Huh. And when
Mhm.
you understand that, it shifts the game versus pointing the finger. It's like, oh, if this whole thing is a mirror. What does this person mirror to me about myself? I think when you can start learning that, it accelerates your growth and evolution, right?
Mhm.
Now, with that said, being loving, sometimes people think, oh, being unconditional loving is, it doesn't mean putting up with BS, doesn't
Mhm.
mean putting up with abuse,
Mhm.
doesn't mean allowing people to walk all over you, right? I tell people I have a unconditional, I have a loving relationship with every person in my life, everyone.
Mhm.
Some people I just choose not to be around.
Mhm. Yep.
Talk about sitting about
Yeah.
because I've had to accept
Mhm.
where this person is at,
Mhm.
where this person is at in their consciousness, where this person is at in their development, where this person is just at in their capacity. And some people are in, sadly, so much pain that it's not personal.
Mhm.
They've been through things in their childhood and they've been through so many challenging things that they're hurt. So based on that hurt and that belief system that they're holding, they can't behave any other way.
Mhm.
It's not even their fault. That doesn't condone their behavior,
Mhm.
but they can't help it. If they believe, like, so you have to think, what would they need to believe? What would they need to believe in order to act that way? And if
Mhm.
you believe what they believe, you would act that way. You might say, but Kute, I don't act that way. Exactly, because you don't believe what they believe. So if
Mhm.
they believe what they believe, based on that belief structure, they can't help it. And
Mhm.
so it's not even their fault.
Mhm.
And so for me, that frees me up to be able to see their innocence, to be
Mhm.
able to love them. They don't have to change, but it
Mhm.
forces me and you and I to
Mhm.
accept what they are and what they're not. And sometimes we don't want to accept that this person doesn't have the capacity.
Mhm.
They're not able to be any different in this moment of their life based on their evolution. No,
Mhm.
but if they want, no, no, they
Yeah.
can't based on, well, if they just change their beliefs, but this is what they believe. And based on that belief and who
Mhm.
they think they are, this is how they behave.
Mhm.
When you accept that, it frees
Mhm.
you. So then you can love people unconditionally. Like, you are what you are. You
Mhm.
don't have to change. But that will force you now to take the responsibility of changing and making different choices in terms of,
Mhm.
what would be a self-honoring way that I need to behave, that I need to relate to this person? Would it
Mhm.
be to never meet? Would it be to stop being friends with them? Would it be just to be friends with them, but only on the phone? Would it be to be friends with them, but meet them only once a week? Would it be to have them as an acquaintance and see them at public events, but never one-on-one? Because whenever I meet this person one-on-one, they hit me on the head with a baseball bat. They can't
Mhm.
help it. It's just their emotional tendency. So when you can accept it, it frees you to then come into acceptance, to navigate and know how to set those boundaries in a way that honors you, honors them. So you can still love them. You don't have to
Yeah.
be in judgment. You can, I love, like, I remember I told one friend 25 years ago, I
Mhm.
told this friend, and I was just a young teenager,
Mhm.
told this friend, just moved to America. And this was like a brother to me. It's
Mhm.
like we were just brothers, and I was sleeping on his couch because I had no money and he just helped
Mhm.
me so much. But the dude was crazy. He just crazy from the standpoint of just emotionally, a bit bipolar, a bit, just all of these things, up and down and emotional outbursts. And eventually I moved. I'm like, I can't be around this person. So I moved. In other words, uh, I decided I was no longer going to take him up on his offer on free rent on his
Mhm.
couch
Yeah.
because the emotional toil was not worth the free rent. And I
Mhm.
didn't have any money. And so I ended up moving, long story short. And he felt so betrayed and so mad and so started calling me and leaving voice messages like, you betrayed me. I can't believe you. I gave you everything. You're my brother. I thought you were a real friend. And eventually I had to have a conversation because it was getting out of control.
Mhm.
And I had to say, because my moving triggered his abandonment stuff. And so
Yeah.
I had to finally say, look, if you don't stop screaming on the phone,
Mhm.
I'm going to be forced to never speak to you again.
Mhm.
So please, you choose. And he kept screaming. And that was the time I
Mhm.
said, my boundary, because this was months of putting up with this. I finally
Mhm.
hung up the phone and we never spoke again.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that was the final time where I
Mhm.
said, this is the line. Out of honoring myself, this is my line. And we never spoke again. And that doesn't mean I don't love him. So
Mhm.
it doesn't mean just because you set a boundary, you can't love the person and see their soul and see their perfection, but you are accepting the reality
Mhm.
of where they are at. You know, I kind
Yeah.
of give an analogy sometimes. If you have a dog,
Mhm.
a pet dog, right? Dogs go woof woof. You know, dogs bark woof woof.
Mhm.
Is that why? Because it's a dog.
Yep.
But you imagine you come up to your dog and you say, "Hey, dog, if you love me, would you just go meow? Just please. If you love,
Mhm.
no, seriously, if you love me, just go meow." The dog goes woof woof. Like, what's wrong? Well,
Mhm.
and now you get into an argument with this dog. It's like, will the dog ever go meow?
Mhm.
No, because
No.
it's a cat.
Exactly.
Because it's a dog. It's not a
Yes.
cat. So I
Right.
tell people if you want a cat and a meow, get a cat. So
Mhm.
when you accept that it's a
Yeah.
dog, when you accept who people are, then you don't try to get something from them that they're not able to give you.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then you can choose, how do I navigate with this person?
Mhm. Yeah, such a beautiful example is then you're choosing based on what is, not what you hope it is. And
Do
it's
not make it
so
on
powerful.
potential.
Yeah, so powerful.
Like some advice for people that get into a romantic relationship in a minute or
Mhm.
less. If you see someone, ask yourself, if this person does not change,
Mhm.
would I be okay with that?
Mhm.
If this person never changed, would I be okay with it? Obviously, we're going to, but if they never change,
Mhm.
would I be okay? If you can't say yes, you're setting yourself up for troubles. Yeah,
Mhm.
but Coot, you know, I'm a vegan. They eat beef, but I can change them. No, 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 no.
Mhm.
They're great, but they smoke, and I hate smoking. If you cannot say I can accept them as they are, you're gonna suffer.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so good just to ask those questions. They seem so simple, but it's like when you're in the thick of it, it's so hard to get
Yes,
to those
yes,
questions. But when you
yes,
have it, it just makes it so much more simplified and understanding like,
exactly,
am I making this something that it's not, or what is it actually? And
exactly.
yeah, so powerful. One other thing I want to just ask you about is manifestation, because it's something that was talked about so much. And
Uh,
part of that is like, okay, when we're manifesting something, trying to invite into our life, there can also be like a lot of that like force and trying to force it into things and really just put in our heads. Can you talk about the process of surrender with manifestation and inviting
yeah,
into
I
our
think it
life?
comes down to two questions.
Mm-hmm.
In when you try to force things, you're in ego. The
Mm-hmm.
ego-based model for living life, you can manifest things, but it will be limited because the
Mm-hmm.
ego cannot see the whole picture. So
Mm-hmm.
based on that, you might get certain things, but often it won't be truly what you wanted or what you thought you wanted or as good as you wanted. The
Yeah.
question I invite people to ask them when it comes to ask themselves when it comes to manifestation is not what do I want,
Mm-hmm.
but what is it that is seeking to express through me?
Mm-hmm.
What is life seeking to express through me? What is the universe seeking to express through me? What is the deeper level of what my own soul is seeking to express?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can open to that and feel that bigger question, you go beyond your ego mind and you become available to more of life. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when you can catch a bigger vision for yourself, and life can begin to express through you and manifest through you and create through you. That is when the magic happens.
Yeah.
That
Beautiful.
is when the
I love
magic
that.
happens.
I love that
And in
perspective.
life, look, you don't get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get what you pray about, think about, you know, put on your vision board. You get what you are. Life, again, like a relationship, life is a life is a mirror manifestation of your own consciousness. And the
Mm-hmm.
life that you have mirrors your own consciousness. So I can basically read your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people might say, well, how? Just look at your life, because your
Mm-hmm.
life will tend to be the physical outpicturing of the
Mm-hmm.
choices you made based on what you believe, right? There's certain choices you make based on what you believe and how you feel about yourself. And so the life you end up living will tend to be a physical representation of your most deeply held beliefs about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at your life, here's what I would say if you want to manifest. If you look at your life, ask yourself, do I like what I see?
Mhm.
Tough question. Do I like what I see? Well, some things not, no, yes. Whatever the answer is, do I like what I see? And so you can just point the finger at life and blame and be a victim. You can point the finger at life and just try to change what's out here.
Mhm.
But to truly manifest is not about making things happen. It's about shifting what's inside of you. And when you shift what's inside of you and you let go of the beliefs and the ideas and the misconceptions inside of you, you clear yourself, then you project a different frequency and energy and you clear the pain, the hurt, the trauma from childhood. You project a different energy. And as a result, life will reflect back to you who you have become.
Mhm.
So if you want to manifest yourself, life will reflect that.
Yeah, it's so much more empowering. It's one of my favorite quotes by Albert Einstein is no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created
Yes,
it. And it's
yes,
it's that. It's like, you can't just keep beating your head on the same thing if you're not willing to
right.
change within. So
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And is there anything we didn't cover today that you want to share? Any
No, we
messages
covered
that
some.
you
We covered a lot. It's been a joy.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
would just wrap up by saying, look, folks, just speaking to my wife about this the other day.
Mhm.
Life is short. So I would just tell everyone, look, you are going to die.
Mhm.
Let's sit with that for a moment. Like you, oh, we know, yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. You're gonna die.
Mhm.
You're 20 years old, we think we have forever, but then you're 30. Then you hit 40.
Mhm.
40 is like, oh shoot, I'm almost 50. But that wasn't far from 40. But now you're almost 50, then 50 is 60, 60 is 70. And then you realize, whoa, how many years do I have left? And so this life is over in the blink of an eye. Feel your death, not as a morbid thing, but as a sobering reality check
Mhm.
to course correct you so that you can really focus on what's really important in life. Because what's really important, like life will not give you any refunds.
Mhm.
Life, there's no remake, redos. And I would just tell people, how would you need to live your life in such a way that you have no regrets? Because this is it right here.
Absolutely. It's such a beautiful message. And it's something I've shared on my podcast. My brother passed away at 41 and I've lived that. And he had so much
Mhm.
life ahead of him. And
Wow.
it's one of those things that it can't be any more true than what you've said. You
Yeah.
don't know how long you have. Make the
Don't
most
know.
of it and live your highest good today.
Yeah.
So
We
yeah,
think we have forever. You know, when my mother, I wrote
absolutely.
about this in my book, right? The Magic of Surrender.
Hmm.
I thought I had
Yeah.
time. Like if I
Hmm.
have one regret in my life,
Hmm.
and it's not like I hold it heavily, but if I have one regret,
Yeah.
it's like, wow, I would have spent more time with my mom.
Hmm.
But I thought I have time. And sometimes it's the only way we can learn is through experience. And so, like,
Yeah.
wow, now I know. So now, even with my wife, with my son, I do
Hmm.
my best to cherish every moment because
Hmm.
every moment is so precious. And often we don't realize that until
Hmm.
it's too late, you
So
know?
true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everything you've shared today. There's
Oh,
so much
thank you.
value in this. I know that seeds have been planted in people's minds today that will grow and flourish and hopefully will create a new reality for themselves. So I'm so grateful for everything you shared. And for
Thank you.
someone who wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
I will just say a few simple ways. First, I'll say go to my website, Kute
Mhm.
Blackson, Kute, kuteblackson.com.
Mhm.
Make sure you sign up for on my email list where you'll receive a free three-part video training series on how to find your purpose. So kuteblackson.com. On there, you'll find all the latest about my events and seminars. For decades now, I've done seminars and events in Bali and retreats around the world. And so if you're really ready to transform, come to one of my live events, see what's on the schedule in the upcoming months. I would love to meet you in person, connect, and just do my best to support your growth and evolution. So kuteblackson.com, that's one. It's my main website. Instagram, Kute Blackson. Follow me there, say hi there. My podcast, Soul Talk, download, subscribe. For weekly inspiration. What else? The rest we'll put in the show
Mhm.
notes in the links.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. I'll put everything in there. So definitely connect with Ku. And
Thank you.
I'm so grateful for everything you shared today. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And thank you for
Thanks.
everyone who tuned in today.